Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is Mike. I'm back to do another list video. This is going to be my top 25 favorite films from the 1950s. What do you think of my t-shirt? Huh? Just came in the mail a few days ago. Doesn't fit very well. We'll do the best we can. Thank you so much for watching my last video. I love all of your comments. I appreciate all of your support, and I appreciate your coming back. Try not to keep you as long as I did the last time, all right? So, coming in at number 25, this is a musical from MGM from 1954, I believe. Might be 55. Yeah, I always forget the dates, but sometime in the mid-50s. It's Always Fair Weather. This is a movie directed by Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, and it's not really talked as much as classic films like Singing in the Rain, but I always liked this movie a lot. It's kind of the end of the cycle for the MGM musicals. They were starting to fade out. This was not a big success at the time. This is interesting because it has a lot to do with the influence of television on the culture, and it's kind of a sardonic look at the way television was making people hypnotized and staying in their homes instead of going to the movies. Anyway, it stars Gene Kelly, Dan Daly, Sid Charisse, Dolores Gray, and Michael Kidd. All right, and I love it. Next up is a classic soap opera on this double feature DVD set from 1959, the remake of Imitation of Life. The original is also here, starring Claudia Colbert and Louise Beavers, classic film. But I like the one from the 1950s. Lana Turner, John Gavin, Sandra Dee, let's see, Dan O'Herlihy, Susan Kohner, Robert Alda, and Juanita Moore. And a little outdated in a lot of people's opinions, but great performances. Break your heart. Next up is a quintessential film noir from 1952, On Dangerous Ground, starring Ida Lupino and Robert Ryan, and directed by Nicholas Ray. And Robert Ryan, wow, just never fails to grab your heart. He plays a very complicated character, a policeman who is being affected by the violence that he has to confront every day. He's becoming very violent himself, and he's a very conflicted character, as Robert Ryan, his characters usually are, but perfectly matched by Ida Lupino. Great performances. Next up is a classic science fiction from 1950. Yeah, speak, Mike. 1951. The Day the Earth Stood Still, directed by Robert Wise, starring Michael Rennie, Patricia Neal, and Hugh Marlowe. What can I say? I've never seen the remake. I really don't want to. Well, I suppose I will someday, but this is so wonderful. I think this has been released on Blu-ray, 4K. I'm not really sure, but I'm happy with this so far. Okay. Klaatu, Maradicto, classic film noir from Stanley Kubrick. The Killing, great caper film of all time. Would make a good double feature with The Asphalt Jungle, which I almost put on my list because that is a great film from this era. And this has Sterling Hayden, who was also in Asphalt Jungle, Colleen Gray, Vince Edwards, J.C. Flippin, Marie Windsor, Ted DeCorsia, and Elisha Cook Jr. And Stanley Kubrick, one of his, well, it wasn't his first film, but it was a great film. And everything that can go wrong with this very elaborate plan for a robbery does go wrong, and it's filmed beautifully. Next up is another science fiction classic from 1958, It, The Terror from Beyond Space, which for a lot of people I think it's considered to be kind of a precursor for Alien, because it's about a monster that's stowed away on a spaceship and comes back and everybody starts to die. It's a very good film, done with all seriousness and kind of violent and bloody for its time. You know, yeah, one of my favorites. Next up is the movie that brought rock and roll to your movie screen. This is Blackboard Jungle. Okay, another teen angst film, 1955. The same year we had Rebel Without a Cause. This is very different. And this is Glenn Ford, Anne Francis, Lewis Calhoun, Margaret Hayes, also with a much too old to be a teenager Sidney Poitier giving a great performance, and Vic Morrow also. A lot of violence, And great performances and good music by Bill Haley and the Comets. Rock Around the Clock. Okay, you can watch the opening sequence, just hear the music, and then turn the movie off if you want to. But I like the whole thing. Next up is a classic Ingmar Bergman film, Wild Strawberries, starring Victor Sjöström in a film and a performance that will just break your heart. This is so beautiful to look at. This elderly gentleman is going back to his college to get an honorary degree, and on the way he is confronting his past and having a lot of visions and memories, and really just beautifully done, beautiful to look at. All right. Next up is a classic horror film from 1958 from Hammer Films, Horror of Dracula, or as they say in Britain, just Dracula. And Christopher Lee in the title role makes his mark on the Dracula character, taking his place next to Mr. Lugosi with what am I saying? Deserves all praise for recreating Dracula. And Christopher Lee. Peter Cushing is right there with him, trying to drive a stake through his heart. Great movie. Next up is one of my favorite teenage angst / monster films. This is I Was a Teenage Werewolf, starring Michael Landon. And it's on a double bill with I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, starring Gary Conway, which is also a very good film, but not up to the level of Teenage Werewolf. Michael Landon is so good in this. It's not done as any kind of a parody or no tongues in cheeks. It's very well done, very serious. And I hope someday these movies will have good commercial releases. We're all hoping for that. This is a bootleg, which is actually very watchable. And I'm not ashamed to have this because it's the only way I can get it. Anyway, next up is another classic film noir. This is In a Lonely Place. Humphrey Bogart, Gloria Graham, directed by Nicholas Ray. Absolutely one of the best performances that Bogart ever gave. And he should have got the Academy Award for this, quite frankly. But yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful, heartbreaking film. All right. Next up is another wonderful film that unfortunately you can only see a movie for the first time once and get all those incredible surprises and all those details that you weren't expecting. And in Witness for the Prosecution, even though you've seen it and you know what's going to happen, I swear this will draw you in. You will be affected by this film every time you see it. At least I am. Tyrone Power, Marlene Dietrich, Charles Laughton, Elsa Lanchester, and directed by Billy Wilder. One of the best films ever made. You will love it. Next up is John Cassavetes' first feature, Shadows. Originally released in 1957, and Cassavetes pulled it from distribution, did some work on it, and it was re-released again in 1959, 1960, 1961, all kinds of various dates in different parts of the world. But yeah, it's a great film. Very crude, and you can see the editing is bad. It's kind of hard to get what everybody's saying. Good use of music. Just a bunch of would-be, wannabe hipsters in New York City and their daily lives, what's going on in their lives, trying to make their way through the world. And it started out as a project in John Cassavetes' acting class in New York City, and he was getting all of his different groups of actors to work out these situations and scenarios and improvise. And he finally started putting it on film and put it all together as a feature. So I love it. I love pretty much everything Cassavetes has ever done, but this one just stands out, I think. Maybe because it was the first. I don't know. Next up, I have 3 films by Marilyn Monroe. You can't possibly go through the 50s without Marilyn Monroe, and I love pretty much everything she did, but these are my favorites. I could have had 7 Year Itch on this list, but I don't. But that could have been here. Anyway, River of No Return with Robert Mitchum and Rory Calhoun, Tommy Rettig. Great adventure film and a beautiful matchup between Monroe and Mitchum. And next up is Bus Stop, which is probably her best performance on film as an actress, with Don Murray in his film debut. Just a beautiful film that will also break your heart. And then we have the only film that Marilyn ever did where she played a truly evil Femme Fatale. This is a film noir called Niagara from 1953. The first film that made her a top star, gave her top billing. And it's absolutely beautiful. A color film noir with a lot of adventure. And Joseph Cotten, Jean Peters. Yeah, I can watch this many, many times. Next up is the greatest film ever made by Judy Garland, in my opinion. This is A Star is Born from 1954, for which she was nominated for Best Actress. She should have won, quite frankly. But James Mason is also in it. And, of course, this has been made many times. This is my favorite version. One of her signature songs, The Man That Got Away, kind of tells the whole story of what's going on in the film. And Judy is just absolutely incredible. All right. And next up we have a film that is kind of obscure. This is a Sal Mineo film, and he became famous from Rebel Without a Cause, and slowly started gaining a reputation doing supporting roles, and became known as the Switchblade Kid because he was always playing these troubled juvenile delinquents. And this is probably the epitome of that image that he had. In 1957, he did a film called Dino. And this is not out on any kind of a good commercial release, just bootlegs, and you can get from online sellers. I got this from thevideobeat.com, and it's pretty good imagery. And this actually started out as a TV play in the previous year, also starring Sal Mineo. If you like Sal Mineo as an actor, if you like his style, this is probably the best example of the work that he has done. Even better, I think, on the whole, than what he did in Rebel Without a Cause, which of course is incredible, but he's just really much stronger as an actor when he did this. All right, next up is my #1 favorite science fiction movie of all time. This is Forbidden Planet, which I have on this beautiful box set, and this is Leslie Nielsen and Earl Holliman and Anne Francis and Walter Pidgeon and Robbie the Robot. Right, all those great people. I love it. Next up, one of my favorite horror films. This is House on Haunted Hill. Okay, which is Vincent Price, directed by William Castle, one of his great gimmick films. It has everything. It has jump scares. It has ghosts that float across the floor. It has plastic skeletons. I mean, you know, vats filled with acid. I mean, what do you want? This is great. I've never seen the remake, and I probably never will. But why would I need to when I have this? And it's a snapper case. All right. Oh, actually, I can't snap. I'll snap it later. Next up is classic teenage angst, Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean, Natalie Wood, Sal Mineo, and I can get emotional about this every single time I watch it. Even when the music starts, I start getting into it. Yeah, and I've seen this many times. Okay. Next up, wow, what can you say about Sunset Boulevard that hasn't been said already? It's a classic Hollywood story, great example of film noir, directed by Billy Wilder. Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond, reclusive, former silent screen star. She was so convincing in this, so good, that people to this day think she was playing her own story, which she was not. She was nothing like Norma Desmond. Also, William Holden, Eric von Stroheim, Nancy Olson. The very first screen appearance by a young actress named Yvette Vickers, who was in it for a couple of hot minutes. And just a beautiful film. Okay. Next up is another film from that great year of 1950 where Sunset Boulevard came out. This is the best picture of that year, All About Eve. Bette Davis, Ann Baxter, George Sanders, Celeste Holm, Hugh Marlowe, Thelma Ritter, and Marilyn Monroe in a very small part. This is not about Hollywood. This is about the theater. So it's kind of like, it's not really a film noir style, but great comeback for Bette Davis, whose career was kind of troubled at that time. And I don't know. I've seen this so many times. And I have this nice little digibook, which I'm very happy to have. Okay, All About Eve. And finally, my top 2 films, which really are kind of interchangeable at this point in my life. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo and Charles Laughton's The Night of the Hunter. Okay, this stars Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters, Lillian Gish, and a great child actor named Billy Chapin, who really is the centerpiece of the film. And directed by Charles Laughton, the only film that he directed, which is very tragic. But thank God we have this. And Vertigo, I love it. I've seen this many, many times. Beautiful color. James Stewart and Kim Novak. A lot of people disagree with the casting and the acting performance of Kim Novak. I think she's perfect. So that's the definitive opinion on Vertigo. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know what you think. And I will see you soon.